Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very different sort of video. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I want to talk to you about Orb Prime. The mechanic behind it, what is maybe perhaps bothering me about it, what are my ideas for Orb Prime, and gonna get your feedback on it as well. I want to see it improve, I want to see better gameplay from it, and I think there's just something can be done. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sylphin. You'll see some Kwong gameplay in the background with Godmother Vigilant. It's pretty sick on Kwong. The full gameplay is coming out very soon, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So what is it about Orb Prime that bothers me? Well, there's a few things right off the bat, and I think that it's being changed. I think Orb Prime is still too soloable, and it needs to be more of a team play. Basically, there needs to be a way. Whatever that is, shields aren't applied, which I don't think they're applied from Orb Prime anyways. Lifesteal, I don't think that is done. Orb Prime has to be a team play mechanic. Whatever happens from that, whether, you know, like Chimera, I think he's going to always be able to, which is really unfortunate. But unless there's some really weird, purely anti-Chimera mechanic put in around Orb Prime, I don't know. It's I think unfortunately that's not going to change. But for everybody else, it has to be. It absolutely has to be a team play, a team mechanic, because it's a map objective. A map objective, like gold buff, that's a solo thing, right? Orb Prime, it just has to be. It's a team. It's a team objective. Now, the other issue is that they, Epic has said that while it is meant to be a team objective, if you build specifically for it, you could solo it. Unfortunately, they mean that to be the exception, that it should be the exception to the rule, that you will be able to, you know, do Orb Prime by yourself, but it's not. The reality is that most of the time, your carry can just deal with it anyways. Shields, a lot of other things, they just can. And while it's meant to be the exception, the balance is not there to make it so, and that's where the issue. So time is needed to balance that out, to make it so that it is actually exceptional for a carry or for a damage dealer to be able to take Orb Prime. Just right now, it's super not. It's just most of the time, your average carry, I would say, or average damage dealer, average shielding, whatever, can just take it. Really, they just can. It's kind of ironic that we're taking Orb Prime as you can see this. So, what else is there that Orb Prime? What's my main gripe? Well, actually, right now is a good moment. My main gripe is the last hit mechanic, and that kind of rules everything about it. If you last hit Orb Prime, you get the buff 100%, no matter what. And there's many reasons to support it, from vision, from strategic, from killing the enemy, making sure they're zoned out to have vision, etc., etc. And hopefully, maybe I cover that, but I'll provide my reasons here. Essentially, I would like to see Orb Prime reward teams that both last hit Orb Prime and also deal damage to it. Now, Orb Prime, the only way to activate this objective, to get this objective, what you invest into Orb Prime is damage. That's just it. I mean, it's a game. You kill things. That is the way you invest damage. If I deal damage to Orb Prime, I feel like you should be rewarded for it in some way. Either, you know, you have strategically killed the entire enemy team, you've zoned them away, you've pushed another lane to draw them there and stuff like that. Either you have done that, or you haven't. You should get rewarded. I mean, having something in the game that you don't get stuff from is not Like, why have it in your video game, right? If it exists, it needs to be worth something, and it just has to be, right? So if a damage deals damage to it, if a team deals damage to it, you need to get something from it. But if you also last hit it, you also need to get something from it. There's a strategic element to it, and then there's the execution sort of element, and those kind of go hand in hand, and both need to be rewarded. If you can somehow solidify the last hit, then you also need to be rewarded. So how would this work? Essentially, last hitting Orb Prime buff gives you a percentage of the full power of Orb Prime. So Orb Prime gives you whatever it does now, 20-25% bonus damage, but 20 to 25, so 25% extra damage is 100% of the buff. But if you last hit it, say your team, if you can last hit it, would get 50% of the buff just for last hitting it. If you're just able to sneak in there somehow, or my issue with it is that there's almost no way for you to deal with a Wraith that walks up to gold buff and snipes down at Orb Prime, right? He can use his vision, and there's almost no way. There are very easy scenarios where it's almost impossible for you to deal with, and that's just fact. There is just simply, in some scenarios, no way for you to deal with dumb things. A Zinx can use her thing through the wall. Countess can use her dark tide through the wall. And there's certain things I personally think you just can't deal with. You just can't. I mean, or it's not reasonable to expect a team to deal with that. And it's not good gameplay. It's not fun. It's just not a cool thing. It's just not a thing. It shouldn't be a thing. So you need, I think the 50%, whatever that percentage is, if you last hit it, if you somehow manage to last hit it, 50% of the buff goes to you. However, the other team, because they've invested 99.9% of the damage, which is the only way you can invest in Orb Prime, really, they still get 50% of the buff. Now, if your team kills Orb Prime 60%, 60% of it, and the enemy team deals 40% of the damage, but your team still manages to get the last hit, well, then there'd be some weird math where you get 50%, but the enemy team still dealt 40%, so they would get 40% of the last 50%, and there'd be some weird math in there where the enemy team, yeah, they only dealt 40% of the damage to Orb Prime, but they didn't secure the last hit, so they only get like 30 or 40% of the remaining, something like that. Because it needs to be objectives for example, and I know comparing things to Paragon to other games is a dicey thing to do, but comparisons to the genre is very important. And even though Heroes of the Storm, for example, is very different, it's a hero brawler, the objectives, I think there are some things to learn. And if Paragon wants to put map objectives, I mean, there are great video games out there to learn from in the objectives part of it. And I think they require you to secure the buff, so you kill the minion camp, and then you have to stand on this little platform, and then after a certain amount of time you activate it so the enemy team can come by and push you out of that, and then stand on it and secure it. And there can be some really cool fights, just like there was with dunking. It's basically a dunk mechanic, except you just got to stand on the pad and activate it. So there'd be really cool things like that. Yes, Paragon's very different, and that's why I think the last hit mechanic still works, and stuff like that. I think you need to be rewarded for both things. You just do. Now, one argument I've heard is, if you were to burn 90%, 99% of Orb Prime, and the enemy team managed to sneak in and steal it, well, that's a good play for them, and they deserve to get it. But that argument actually goes both ways. If the enemy, if your friendly team is able to burn 90% of it without the enemy team noticing, without them being there, and they're able to do it really quickly, why do they deserve to get it all of a sudden? That line of thinking presumes that everything is based on the last hit. Why? And that's the thing. That it presumes that the last hit is everything, and I don't think it is. I don't think it's good gameplay, it's a good mechanic if everything is about the last hit. There's much more to just that last hit than it. You know, that's what makes Call of Duty different than this, right? Call of Duty, if you can execute a headshot, fantastic. But Paragon is so much more than just headshotting Orb Prime. It is so much more to that, and not everything is about that Orb Prime. If we're able to burst it down like this, and the enemy team just can't get there to steal it, why don't we deserve? This is a fantastic ultimate, by the way. 3-person ultimate. Of course, there's a bug there. Completely delete all the enemies. It's just fantastic. So that line of thinking, it's not a safe argument, and there's definitely a flaw in there. It's and you know it requires you to look at the basic fundamentals of the mechanic and ask whether that is a good gameplay or not. Does it serve its purpose? And I simply think it doesn't. It just doesn't. Having such a high emphasis on the execution of the last 1% of the health of an objective does not suit the purpose of the objective in Paragon, in this video game. It's so much more than that, right? If I can burst 50-60% of Orb Prime, there's so much more than just that last hit, in other words. And that's basically it, guys. I think that boils down the argument to its basic fundamentals, the root of the issue here. And that is, I think, the mechanic of Orb Prime does not, it is not really in line with how it's executed. Orb Prime, very much a team-based objective that is very different from securing a kill, from pushing down a tower. It's very different. So to have Orb Prime based solely, like getting Orb Prime, the whole benefit of it, you know, the return on your investment is based so much on the execution side of it, getting that last hit. It's out of line. And I think that's kind of the crux of this whole thing. Everything else can be boiled down to that one simple thing, and I think it needs to be better. I think it honestly needs to be better. There you guys go. There is my thoughts on Orb Prime. Basically, I feel like there is a disconnect between the purpose, the fundamental reason for having something like Orb Prime in the game, and then the actual how do you get it, and how you get it and what you get out of it seems to be a little bit of a disconnect. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I don't do this very often. I don't present my thoughts and kind of critical things as I feel kind of out of place. I'm not a developer. I don't, you know, I'm not an expert. I don't, you know, so it's kind of like what does my opinion even mean? I feel like in this scenario, I have some good reasoning. I think my logic is pretty sound in a lot of cases, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So let me know down in the comments, guys, what you guys think. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it. If you dislike it, share it with the community. Post it on Reddit, maybe. That would definitely start a big discussion there. And of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, I'd really like to help you out in the future, so please hit that subscribe button. Please consider becoming a Patreon supporter to help me on a monthly basis, keep me doing what I love. And of course, use the Amazon affiliate code down in the link in the video description to help me out while you do your Amazon shopping. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.